So the last DVD we got is, of course, the big 2-disc special edition documentary of Friday the 13th films, all the Friday the 13th films, and this one's called His Name Was Jason, put out by our good friends at Anchor Bay Entertainment, and starring just about everybody you can possibly think of from the Friday the 13th series.
Yeah, the movie is narrated by Tom Savini, who brought us actually the original form of Jason in the original Friday the 13th film. So, and he does a really good job narrating, and I think that they filmed the scenes with him at the Halloween Horror Nights set for Friday the 13th. And it works really good. I mean, it does look like a Friday the 13th film, that he's inside of a Friday the 13th film narrating the documentary. And I guess the first 15 or 20 minutes, they go through each of the movies one by one, really briefly. And I was a little confused at why they did that, because that would be obviously, what you could talk about through the entire movie. But after it goes from, parts 1 to Freddy vs. Jason, it's a bunch of randomness after that, like why Jason has become such a cult figure over the years, and all the marketing behind it, and then talk about like the TV series and just about everything Friday the 13th related, the marketing, all the toys that's come out since then,
It's just kind of odd to me that the documentary wasn't more well constructed than it was, because, like you said, it spends the majority of the first part of it talking about all the films, like through all the way up to Freddy vs. All the way up to the remake, actually.
And they go through that in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, and then it's just like they don't really have, like what I would have done, like it matters, but what I would have tried to have done in this was, after it goes through all that, maybe you could go through like some of the actors, like go through the lead survivors from each film or something, like have it make some sort of coherent sense to the way that each film, because the thing about it is, they spend an exorbitant amount of time on certain Friday the 13th films and shit on all, like, certain other ones.
Right.
Like, the ones that they spend the most time on, part 1, part 4, I think. And then the ones that get left out the most is, of course, part 5, and rightfully shit like Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X, really.
Well, I'll give them credit. They didn't really trash part 5. They just didn't talk about it that much. I mean, they had folks from part 5, John Shepard, Shavar Ross, Debbie Sue Voorhees, and Danny Steinman were talking about the part 5. And yeah, I mean, they do spend a lot more time on like the first, second, and yeah, the fourth one the most. And the least amount of time, I think, is oddly on like parts 7 and 8 and 6, 7, and 8, I would say, and then like the New Line ones, which don't really deserve much time,
yeah,
in my opinion.
But really, though, if you're doing a documentary about something that's been talked about as much as the Friday the 13th film, seems to me like you'd want to cover really, really in depth the ones that don't get mentioned a lot.
Right.
Like, that would be the thing that I think that a DVD like this would be geared towards people who would want to see stuff like that, like the real hardcore fans of the Friday the 13th films. And that's why that documentary, while it was like, 80 minutes long, something like that?
It was like 90 minutes.
90 minutes. It's just, there's too much shit. There's just too much to talk about each one of those films to make that work.
Right. I don't like the structure of the documentary, and I want to be flat out honest with you. Halloween 25 Years of Terror is, I would say, infinitely better than this. I know that a lot of the same people were involved in this. It just seemed like to me, and I don't want to pick on anybody in particular and name any names, but it seemed like Halloween 25 Years of Terror was a documentary made just on a whim. Like, they were everybody involved was huge fans of the franchise. They weren't particularly singling out any movie as, horrible or just a waste of time. They were talking equally about each film. Everybody was. And there were people involved in each film. And this one, I think, was more of a cash-in. That they didn't have there weren't the fans behind this. Like, I ain't gonna say that these guys aren't fans of these movies, the director, producers, stuff like this. But I think that they weren't as big into these movies as the guys behind Halloween 25 Years of Terror was. I mean, that is just, watching these movies, you can tell. I mean, I like this, but it's not on the level of 25 Years of Terror. Nowhere near, in my opinion.
Yeah, the thing about the documentary is I didn't like the way that it was put together. I didn't like the way that it was edited. But the thing is, I don't know how something like that would appeal to people who haven't really seen all the films or who aren't like as big of a fan of the series as like we are. That's the thing. I mean, we're so kind of in depth with all those films now because we've seen them so many damn times and talked to people who have been in them that to me it just seemed kind of, I don't know, rudimentary or something. Like, I've heard all that stuff before.
Right.
But now, had I not been in a position to be on the show and stuff, I might not have heard it. That documentary might be 100 times better to like a casual fan of, some of the Friday the 13th films. So I don't know for sure how that would work. I'm just saying that it didn't work to me because all that stuff was, I'd heard all that stuff before. I knew all that stuff. It didn't add anything to the knowledge of the film.
And if you've read Crystal Lake Memories, you've definitely heard all that's in this, and a hell of a lot more, because in a format like that, you can really tell all there is to tell, like all the interesting stories, and you don't have any sort of limit on what you can put in there. I'm not going to try, I didn't hate this. I thought it was fun. It was interesting to watch. It was just oddly constructed. They focused more on, like we were saying, parts 1, 2, and 4 than any of the other ones. And I'm surprised they didn't focus more on part 7, because that is definitely a favorite among a lot of fans. And Kane Hodder wasn't even interviewed that much in this, which was odd to me. And to a lot of fans, he is Jason,
Well, you got to keep in mind, though, here's where the rubber meets the road as far as the review goes. If it wasn't for the second disc in this set, then I would have been really, really disappointed in it. But I didn't expect that much from the documentary to begin with, because I never really expect much from those kind of documentaries. It was the uncut, extended interviews and stuff like that I really wanted to see, because that's where you really get into, exactly what everybody says. And the one thing about this DVD is it has those in fucking spades. First of all, it's got every Jason except for, let's see, who is it? It doesn't have,
I think it has all of them.
Does it have every Jason that was in a Friday the 13th film?
It has Ari Lehman, Steve Dash, Warrington Gillette, Richard Brooker, Ted White, Tom Morga, Dick Wyand, C.J. Graham, Kane Hodder, Ken Kersing, and Derek Mears.
Yeah, okay. So you right there, you've got their interviews in their entirety on the disc. You've got almost every director with the exception of Steve Miner and Ronnie Yee. I
want to hear from him.
I think they're the only ones that don't get mentioned in the as far as the directors go. And those are some killer fucking interviews, too. They go on for like 20, 30, some of them go on 20, 30 minutes. And then you've got the screenwriters of most all the films that have their own featurette where you've got extended interviews with them. So those three featurettes, the only thing that I wish that was on the second disc, this would have made it like the total package, like Lex Luthor. The actors, there's not anything with the actual like actors and actresses from the films in there.
Right.
Why not have their interviews, like just the portions that got cut out, put them on the second disc? I don't really understand that.
No idea. But, there is quite a bit of stuff on the second disc. Script-to-screen interviews with all the screenwriters, or most of the screenwriters. The Camp Crystal Lake Survival Guide.
Which is basically just like a 4 or 5 minute thing about what to do when you're at Camp Crystal Lake by a lot of people that were in the documentary.
Featurette on Jason Takes Comic-Con. I think it's San Diego Comic-Con. Right?
I didn't watch that one. I have to.
Some fan films, which Patrick Ray actually has a fan film in this.
Oh.
He was telling us about. So you definitely want to check that one out. Friday the 13th in 4 minutes, which I guess is an edited down version of Friday the 13th. Something we can mention on here that I didn't know that if they would be allowed to use, but they did use footage from the films in this. They must have got the rights from Paramount to use them, which is cool. I mean, I didn't know how they would be able to do that, because with the Halloween 25 Years of Terror, they couldn't use any footage aside from the stuff that Anchor Bay owned. So,
yeah, the thing with this documentary, though, is that in the end, I think this is where things kind of got off track, was the documentary itself is all like, got a bunch of people in there from different websites, and they're all trying to be funny and cute and stuff, but for me as a fan, all I really want to hear in if I buy something like that is, just let them tell the fucking stories behind the films. It got all real cutesy and stuff in the actual documentary where they're trying to riff on some of it.
I finally found out that motherfucker's name from, you remember back when we were reviewing the slasher documentary, The Rise and Fall of whatever it is. What is it called? Going to Pieces?
Yeah, Going to Pieces.
He was in this one too. His name's Jeff Katz. He's like a fucking comic book writer. Okay, and you're sitting there bitching about these movies. He was the one bitching about the Sleepaway Camp sequels. Fuck that guy. Seriously.
Oh, God.
So anyway. But, I mean, overall, I think, some of the people, some of our comrades, Uncle Creepy, he was in there. Stacey Lynn Wilson was in there.
I just gotta say, that woman, and I love Stacey Lynn Wilson. She's a close personal friend of mine.
Right.
That woman has the most annoying fucking voice I have ever heard come out of anybody. It sounds like fucking Paula Abdul being slapped in the tit or something. I don't know how else to show you.
It's really frightening now. It's like Angela Lansbury's granddaughter.
You think our voices are annoying? You sit down and try to listen to that woman talk for more than like 2 minutes.
Aw, you need to quit being mean to Stacey Lynn.
I'm just saying, Stacey Lynn Wilson, I love you. Like I said, you're a close personal friend of ours, but please do us all a favor. Don't do it anymore.
Yeah, I think Tony Timpone did a horrible job in that too. Just want to say that. But he's got to be in there. He's got to be in every documentary except ours. That's Tony Timpone for you. Yeah. So anyway, his name was Jason. 30 years of Friday the 13th. I actually highly recommend it just because it's a fucking Friday the 13th documentary. You gotta own it if you're a fan of Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
A special thank you goes out to our supporters on Patreon. The Patreon website has a complete archive of the Dead Pit radio shows starting way back in 2005, in addition to all of the midweek shows, archived commentaries, all that good stuff. If you're interested, and we appreciate all the support, go to www.patreon.com/IntoTheDeadPit. Tiers start as low as $1 per month.